Being able to influence others puts us in very powerful positions indeed. We can influence people, we can influence decisions, we can influence the direction of our lives and the lives of those around us. This, of course, can be used for bad and it can be used for good. There are manipulative ways to influence people, and there's also extremely positive ways to influence people as well. In this episode, we're going to dive into how to use confidence to positively influence those around you so that other people respect you, look up to you, and so that you can have the impact on other people's lives that you dream of. Welcome to Let's Talk Confidence, the first and last place you need to go to build long-lasting confidence. I'm your host and coach, Josh Sutton. Please do give the podcast a follow, drop a quick review, share this episode with someone who feels like they have to try really hard to be taken seriously. You would like to positively influence people more. It helps us to grow, helps people build more confidence that actually lasts. Right, let's dive in. Influencing other people can be a great thing to do, but I reckon most people have got it pretty backwards when it comes to how to actually do this. Many people think that influence comes from being charismatic, being loud, having the best arguments, being the most impressive person in the room. They think you influence people by proving yourself to them or by getting their approval, by performing competence like you're on a stage. And that might work sometimes in small bursts, but it does not create real influence. Real influence comes from something a lot quieter and a lot more powerful. It comes from genuine internal confidence. The kind where you're secure in yourself, where you're not trying to win people over because you already know who you are and what you stand for. And when you have that, you stop chasing people's respect and start attracting it. There's a real irony in it. When you do this, people feel it and they trust it and they lean into it. Why? Well, because I personally think it's quite rare. Let me start this by something you've probably seen 100 times. A meeting, a group chat, a family dinner, a team call. There's always somebody in those situations who talks the most. They have an opinion on everything. They interrupt, they dominate, they push, try to steer everything that's going on in the room. And because they are loud and quite dominating, people assume that they are the ones who are influential. But if you actually watch what happens, most of the time, the people in the room aren't following them because they're respected. They're following them, or at least appearing to do so, because it's just easier than fighting them. Does that sound like influence to you? Think of the most influential person you've met in your life. Not like a distant philanthropist or a celebrity or politician, a real person in your life who you find really inspiring and who has influenced you. What qualities did they possess? Why were they influential? One of the most influential people in my life was a boss that I had when I was teaching. It was a head teacher. Now, contrary to the point I've made so far, she wasn't actually particularly quiet. She was quite extroverted, talkative, and often pretty to the point. But she was so authentic, so genuine, so warm, that everyone, including me, were happy to jump through hoops for her. I didn't agree with every one of her decisions, but didn't question them either. I trusted her and followed her through thick and thin. And more than that, she influenced the way I saw leadership. Coming from a stiff upper lip, old school banking background, this new way of leading completely changed the way that I approached leadership and treating people if you were managing them or leading them in some way. If she'd written her methods down in a book without me meeting her, I'd probably have dismissed them out of hand. But because I spent the best part of 10 years with her, I kind of lived in her presence, certainly from a professional perspective, and quickly came round to doing things her way without really her ever trying to sell me her approach. That is influence. And it helps us define what I mean through influence, because this definition of it matters. Influence is not manipulation. It's not getting people to do what you want by playing mind games. Influence is the ability to move people, to shape decisions, to lead direction, to bring people along with you in a way that's ethical, authentic, and built on trust. Influence is what makes someone take your idea seriously. It's what makes people think. It's what makes people think, yeah, I can see myself following this person. It's what makes your words carry weight. And here's one of the key ideas I want you to take away from this episode today. The fastest way for you to lose influence is to need it. The moment you are desperate to be liked, respected, approved of, seen as impressive, you start leaking neediness into everything you do. You over-explain, people please, hedge your bets, ask for permission, laugh too hard. We've seen that one. You agree too quickly. You become a person who's unknown, and people can feel it. They might like you, but they won't follow you, because leadership energy and being influential does not come from chasing. It comes from a place of steadiness, particularly within yourself. And look, this is the point I've made in some of the other episodes that I've done. There are different types of confidence. There's a performative kind of confidence, which is basically you trying to look confident so that other people treat you as a confident person. And then there's identity confidence, where you fundamentally trust yourself. You know who you are, you know what matters to you, and you're not trying to be somebody else in order to earn respect, in order to earn a seat at the table, as it were. Influence comes not from performative confidence, but from identity confidence. Because authenticity creates authority, as was the case with my previous boss. Let me explain that line a bit. It's a bit wordy, but it is really important. Authenticity creates authority, because when you are authentic, you are, use a fancier word, you're congruent. What you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do are aligned. You're not acting or hiding. You're not performing for a reaction. You are simply being you, with clarity. And humans, we're kind of wired to trust congruence. We might not consciously think it, but we feel it. We sense when someone means what they say. We also sense when someone's trying to get something from us, when someone's trying to sell us an image. If you ever met someone who's quite charming, but you don't quite trust them, it's usually because their behaviour is too polished, too rehearsed. You just get a funny sense. There's like a hidden agenda that you can't quite put your finger on. And even if the agenda is just, please like me, it plays on your mind, doesn't quite feel right. On the other hand, when you meet someone who's relaxed in themselves, you just feel it kind of instantly. Their nervous system isn't begging, it's not performing, it's grounded. And your nervous system relaxes in response. It's why authentic people influence rooms really without trying. Again, think of the person who you find influential. They probably don't try to be influential. Their presence does the work. So if influence comes from internal confidence, how do you actually build it? How do you go from being someone who feels like they have to impress to someone who naturally carries weights when they walk into a room? And I want to give you some practical tips. Nothing fluffy, just actual steps that you can apply. So, step 1, foundations. If you do not know who you are, you will try to borrow identity from somebody else. This is where most influence problems start. Because often people don't lack communication skills, they lack this internal grounding that we've been speaking about. They don't feel secure in what they believe, so they constantly scan the room for cues. Is this behaviour acceptable? Is it too much? Is it too little? What will they say? What will they think? Will they like me if I say this? Will someone take offence if I... Always overthinking and over-planning. And that scanning, it takes away from your authenticity. It makes you reactive. It makes you follow energy rather than set it. So your first job is to get clear on your foundations. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you value? What are your non-negotiables? What kind of person are you choosing to be, even if it costs you something? Because influence grows when people see consistency. Not perfection, consistency. If your values change depending on who you are or who's in the room, people cannot trust you. And quite frankly, you won't trust you. If your boundaries disappear when you want approval, people will not only not trust you, but they won't respect you either. So here's a simple exercise. Write down 3 values that you want to be known for. Not values that sound nice, values that you are willing to live by, even if they cost you something. For example, could be honesty, courage, calm, excellence, fairness, integrity, growth, responsibility. Just pick 3 that really stand out to you and go, this is a value I want to live by. Once you've got 3, write 1 sentence for each one that describes what that value might look like in real life. Not in theory, but in actual your behaviour. So integrity might be, I will do what I say I will do, even when it's inconvenient. Calm might be, I'll slow down and respond rather than react. Courage might be, I say the thing that needs to be said, even when my stomach drops and I'd really rather not. These sentences become your, if you like, internal compass. That is the start of identity confidence. Step 2 is stop auditioning. If you are trying to influence people while seeking their approval, you are basically auditioning for their acceptance. I know you won't think of it like that, but that is effectively what you are doing. And auditions make you look weak. You become flexible in the wrong way. You become too agreeable. You start trying to guess what people want to hear or see from you. And you know from your own experience that that kind of person is not somebody that you respect or find influential, and so why would it be different for you? So instead of asking, how do I get them to like me, ask a better question. Am I being true to myself in this situation? Is there some unmet need or thing I'm looking to get, whether it's approval or acceptance or even a laugh? Whatever it is, work through this outside of the conversation or meeting, whatever it is, with someone, either with somebody else or with yourself. Work on being unattached to a particular outcome, because this is the true way to build authenticity, to come across as authentic and in turn become more influential. Step 3 is to regulate your nervous system. This is another part that a lot of people ignore, but it's huge. If your body is in threat mode, you'll speak from that threat. You'll even become defensive or aggressive or submissive, and you'll rush your words, you'll over-explain, you'll justify. You know, you've done it before. You might apologise for everything. Or you'll go the other way and become quite sharp and controlling and maybe even aggressive to protect yourself. Neither way, you will not influence people if you're in this mode. You will influence instead from a place of calm authority. So you need a method to bring yourself back to this steady place, especially in high stakes moments. So, practical tip before a difficult conversation, slow your breathing down. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale. Go on YouTube after this video and find some breathing techniques. Plant your feet, relax your shoulders, remind yourself of a simple line like, I can handle whatever happens next. It's not fake confidence, it's building self-trust. That's where influence is built. Step 4 is communication that carries weight. Once your foundations are solid, your nervous system's in place, and it's calmer, your words are naturally going to land differently. But there are a few simple behaviours that instantly increase your influence. So the first is clarity. Say what you mean. Without the disclaimers or the context or this, just say what you mean. Keep things simple. People respect clarity because it signals certainty, and certainty signals safety. Influential people do not speak like they're trying to cover every angle to avoid being misunderstood. Using big words and complicating things to explain something simple is the mark of a fraud. The opposite, making the seemingly complex more simple, is the sign of a genius, in my opinion. Say the points and then stop. And if you are someone who talks in circles, you're usually doing it to protect yourself. You're trying to reduce the chance of rejection. And the problem is that the more you talk, the less people trust what you're saying. Say the thing, let it land, and stop. The third is to do with your questions. If you want to influence somebody, don't just convince them, lead them. Ask questions that shift the way that they see things. That's where real influence comes. It could be questions like, what happens if we keep doing it this way for the next 6 months? What would we do if we were not afraid of getting it wrong? What would the confident version of our team choose here? Questions, and I know from coaching, questions are so powerful because they make people participate in the change rather than be a passive observer or resist it. Step 5 is integrity in action. Influence is built when your behavior matches your words over time. If you want people to respect you, you've got to respect your own word. And this is where really confidence becomes real. You do the uncomfortable thing and you follow through with what you say you're going to do. You hold your own boundaries. You might admit mistakes without collapsing. You take responsibility without needing to be rescued. You own up to it. You say, this is where I'm up to. This is what I've achieved and this is what I haven't. And people notice. And even if they do not say it out loud, they will still notice. So let me give you another very practical way to think about this. Influence is like a bit of a bank account. Every time you do what you said you would do, you make a deposit. And every time you avoid a hard conversation or go back on your word, you make a withdrawal. Every time you pretend to agree, you make a withdrawal. If you gossip or if you throw somebody under the bus, you make a withdrawal. And like trust, the withdrawal is often far larger than the little deposits of trust that you're putting in. But every time you do your thing you say you're going to do, you make that deposit. And your presence either becomes expensive or cheap. Make yours expensive in a good way. And let me also get this clear. Authenticity does not mean saying everything you think. It does not mean being blunt for the sake of it. It means being true, and there is a difference. Being authentic is about alignment. It's not about dumping your unfiltered thoughts on everybody. You can still be authentic and tactful. Those two can still very much go together. You can still be authentic and kind. In fact, and you will agree with this, the most influential people that you know, they can say hard things without making people feel attacked. And this is a skill. It comes from a real place of internal security because when you are secure, you do not need to dominate. You can be firm without being harsh. You can build other people up. So how do you practice this in real life this week? Well, I've got 3 challenges for you. First one, pick an area where you are currently performing and you know you are. One place where you feel like you can't fully be yourself. It could be work, it could be family, it could be with friends. Where is that area? Write it down and write down what you do in that environment to stay safe. Do you need to become the funny one, the agreeable one, the quiet one, the clever one, the over-explainer? Name that particular mask that you're putting on because you can't change what you refuse to see. If you've got a really close friend in these circumstances, maybe brave and ask them. Second, pick one small act of authenticity that you can begin to practice. Something low risk but real. It might be saying, I don't agree, and leaving it there. And just seeing what happens. It might be saying no without the essay afterwards. It might be asking for what you actually want instead of hoping people guess. It might be stopping yourself from laughing along when something doesn't feel right. Just one small act. This is how you build that muscle over time. And third, pick one act of integrity. Something you have been avoiding. It could be a task, conversation, a decision, just whatever it is, do it. Not because it's fun, you're not going to enjoy it, but because you said you would. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your internal confidence grows. And when your internal confidence grows, your influence will grow with it. People can feel someone who respects themselves. And you know this to be true as well. So I'll leave you with this. If you want to influence people, stop trying to be impressive. Influence does not come from performing types of confidence. It comes from being so secure in yourself that you do not need to perform at all. You live with integrity. You live with clarity. You move with a calmness. You stay consistent. You become a steady signal in a really increasingly noisy world. And people will follow that, not because you beg them to, but because it feels like safety, truth, and leadership. That's all for today. If you want to work with me as your coach to build the kind of internal confidence that we've been speaking about today, the kind that makes you more influential without having to just become louder, then head to joshsuttoncoaching.com where we can have a conversation. I'm your coach, Josh Sutton. Let's talk confidence.